Welcome back to Narrations. Some stories are loud, filled with events, with action, with clear beginnings and endings. And some stories move differently. Softly. Like memory. Like grief. Tonight's story is about a mother, a child, and the silence left behind after loss. This is Hamnet. It's about love. About absence. And about the way loss changes everything without making a sound. Before Hamnet, before grief, before silence, there is Agnes. She is not introduced through titles or roles. Not as a wife. Not as a mother. But as a presence. Agnes moves through the world differently from others. She notices things that most people overlook. The way air shifts before a storm, the subtle changes in people's expressions, the quiet language of plants and animals. She understands the natural world with an instinct that feels almost otherworldly. In the small town of Stratford, she is seen as unusual. Not entirely understood, but respected in a quiet, cautious way. People come to her for remedies, for guidance, for things they cannot explain. Because Agnes knows things. Not through logic, but through feeling. Her life changes when she meets a young man who is just as out of place in his own way. A tutor. Quiet. Observant. Someone who does not quite fit into the rigid expectations of his family. Their connection is immediate, though not dramatic. It grows through glances, through shared understanding, through the recognition of something familiar in each other. They fall in love not loudly, but inevitably. Their marriage is not entirely approved by his family, but it happens anyway. A quiet act of choice in a world that values structure over feeling. They begin their life together in Stratford. It is not grand. Not easy. But it is theirs. Children come into their life. First Susanna. Then twins. Hamnet and Judith. The twins are close in a way that feels inseparable. They move through the world as if they share something deeper than simple sibling connection. Their thoughts mirror each other. Their presence feels like one life expressed in two bodies. Agnes watches them closely. Not with fear, but with awareness. Because she understands how fragile life can be. The father, meanwhile, spends long periods away. In London. Working. Writing. Building something that requires distance. His absence becomes part of their life. Expected. Normal. Agnes carries the weight of the household. Not just physically, but emotionally. She becomes the center around which everything moves. The children rely on her. The home reflects her. The world feels grounded through her presence. Life continues in quiet rhythms. Days pass. Seasons change. And then, without warning, something shifts. It begins far away. A flea. A monkey. A series of movements across continents. Something small. Something invisible. Something unstoppable. The plague begins its journey. But in Stratford, life continues as usual. No one sees it coming. Not yet. Inside the home, the twins are together. Always together. Until one day, Judith falls ill. At first, it seems manageable. A fever. Weakness. Something that will pass. Agnes tends to her carefully. Watching. Waiting. But the illness does not behave normally. It deepens. Spreads. Changes. And then, something unexpected happens. Hamnet takes her place. Not literally. But emotionally. He feels her absence. Her illness. Her distance. And somehow, he moves into that space. He becomes the one who is lost. The one who disappears into fever. The one who slips away. Agnes tries everything. Every remedy. Every instinct. Every piece of knowledge she has. But some things cannot be stopped. And Hamnet dies. The moment is not loud. There is no dramatic declaration. Just silence. A space where something used to be. And is no longer. After Hamnet's death, the house does not change in obvious ways. The walls remain the same. The furniture stays where it was. The doors open and close as they always have. And yet, everything is different. Because absence has weight. It settles into spaces. Into rooms. Into routines. Agnes moves through the house as if something invisible has shifted the ground beneath her. She continues doing what needs to be done, tending to the remaining children, maintaining the household, moving through daily tasks, but everything feels altered. Slower. Heavier. As though each action requires more effort than before. Grief does not arrive in one clear moment. It unfolds gradually. Through small realizations. Through habits that no longer make sense. She finds herself turning to call Hamnet, only to remember. She notices the empty space where he used to sit. She feels the absence beside Judith, whose twin connection has been severed in a way that cannot be repaired. Judith survives. But something in her has changed. The closeness she once shared with her brother becomes a quiet void. She speaks less. Moves differently. As if part of her has gone with him. Agnes feels this deeply. Not just as a mother. But as someone who understands connection in a way others do not. She knows that losing one child does not leave the others untouched. Loss moves through the entire family. Reshaping everyone. The father returns. Summoned by the news. He arrives from London into a house that no longer feels like home in the same way. His grief is real. But it is distant. Not because he does not feel. But because he has not lived inside the daily rhythms that shaped Hamnet's life. He was not there for the small moments. The routines. The growth. His connection to his son exists, but it is fragmented. And now, it must process loss without those memories to anchor it. Agnes sees this. And it creates a quiet distance between them. Not anger. Not resentment. But something more complex. They are grieving the same child. But in different ways. And those ways do not always meet. The house becomes divided by silence. Not intentional silence. But the kind that grows when words are not enough. Agnes begins withdrawing. Not from responsibility. But from connection. She spends time alone. In nature. With plants. With the quiet world that has always made sense to her. Because the human world now feels unpredictable. Unstable. She searches for meaning. Not in religion. Not in explanation. But in feeling. Trying to understand how something so present can disappear so completely. Time moves. Not quickly. Not dramatically. But steadily. The family adapts. Because life does not stop. Even when it feels like it should. The father returns to London. To his work. To writing. And something begins forming there. Not consciously. Not as a deliberate act of processing grief. But as something that grows quietly. A story. A character. A prince haunted by the presence of his father. By absence. By memory. The name shifts. Not Hamnet. But Hamlet. Close enough to echo. Different enough to transform. The story becomes a place where grief can exist in another form. Where loss can be explored. Understood. Given shape. Agnes does not see this immediately. For her, grief remains rooted in the physical world. In the space where her son once lived. In the absence she continues to feel every day. But eventually, time creates a moment of connection. She travels to London. Sees the play. Watches the story unfold on stage. And in that moment, something shifts. She recognizes something. Not directly. Not literally. But emotionally. The grief she has been carrying exists there. Transformed. Expressed. Alive in a different way. The distance between her and her husband softens slightly. Not because the loss has changed. But because it has found a form that can be shared. Even if imperfectly. The story does not end with resolution. Because grief does not resolve. It changes. It moves. It becomes part of everything that follows. Agnes continues her life. Not as the person she was before. but as someone reshaped by what she has lost. The family continues. Different. Altered. But still connected. And Hamnet, though gone, remains. Not physically. But in memory. In feeling. In the spaces that still hold him. Hamnet is not a story about death. It is a story about what remains. About how love continues even after loss. About how grief does not disappear, but becomes part of the life that follows. Some stories are told loudly, and some are carried quietly. Inside the people who remember. If you enjoyed listening to this narration, please like, share, and subscribe for more movie and story narrations. I'll see you in the next one.